Okay, Maury, welcome to the show. Glad to have you on. Glad to unpack a new type of technology, a new product that's being offered to the market. Welcome to Mining Now.
Thank you very much, Jared.
Have you had the pleasure of doing many of these long form shows?
Actually, no, this is my first. I'm really excited about it.
Oh, good. It certainly gives you time to unpack. I feel a little bit slow after learning about your about your product, because even Rory booked you on the show, and then I talked to you, and about a quarter way through the conversation, I realized I completely misunderstood what the product was. I thought you were like, I told you I had like this. I had a cargo flat, so I put this glue stuff inside it to like seal it off, and I thought you were just doing the mining tire version of that. So let's just start off with, we'll talk a little bit about Griffin Chemical in a moment, but let's quickly just talk about what the product you're actually offering to the mining industry is, and then go from there.
Sure. No problem, Jared. What really the mining industry for the last 30 years has been using, in not everywhere in the world, but in many places, a liquid additive. There's many manufacturers, and what the whole basis behind having a small amount of liquid inside these tires is to stop the wheels from rusting or eliminate rust. Because on the inside of the face of the wheel, it's almost impossible to get the tires off if there's rust built up on that wheel. So these products stop that from happening, so that these trucks and different vehicles aren't sitting around waiting to have the tires pulled off. And so it takes very little time to get these tires off without any rust. So that's the main premise behind the products that are out there in the liquid form. So there's heat reduction. There's other attributes that follow. So it's used in many parts of the world, like I mentioned, but not everywhere.
Mm. You know, something I always like to do now on the show, and I didn't always do it, and I think it sometimes confused the audience, because then they wouldn't know what the thing that you were fixing. So how is it typically done? How is this type of product typically brought to the mine site and installed in the tires and all that sort of stuff?
Sure, it's normally brought to the mine sites in 275 or 1,000 liter. I call them totes or IBCs. They bring them on site. There's a valve on the bottom of the tote or IBC, and it's poured into a pail and essentially walked over to the tire before it's mounted and dumped in the tire. Depending on the size of the tire, it determines the quantity of the liquid. And then once they pour the liquid in the tire, it's mounted up onto the wheel, and the O-rings put on, all the other rings are put on to keep the tire in place on the wheel itself with the rim.
So so when you're talking, I'm just picturing, because you've got a powder form, but the old way of doing it is you basically fill up these giant totes and are shipping them around, technically shipping them all over the world. Is that right? Yes, yeah,
that's exactly what's happening, and that's why our product is so much more innovative and really industry disrupting, because to ship that amount of liquid, I mean, one tote's 2,500 pounds, and mining, especially in the larger stuff, uses 30 gallons per tire. So you start adding that up in a mine site that's got 80 trucks or 100 trucks, and now you're talking they've got to get containers full of these totes shipped in. And we can talk about the cost of that, of course, but it's extraordinary, and there's really a better way to do it now, but there hasn't been for 30 years.
And so I'm always curious when you see these situations where, like, your product is one of those products that it hits the market, and then it's kind of like, oh, that's kind of how it should be done. Is it like how long did it take before your product was like, has it been in development for like several years? Has there been, 20 years ago, did someone try to get it to market and it just didn't catch for whatever reason? Like how does it go 30 years with them shipping big totes all over the world for mining operations?
That's probably one of the harder questions to answer. It's like you start doing something one way and you just keep doing it that way. Our industry innovates very slowly as far as tires and wheels. I mean, the other than certain structures of tires and different sizes, the wheels and tires haven't changed for 30 years. So there's really not much movement. I mean, even one of our distributors, Haltech, I mean, the valve stems are still valve stems. Yeah. They've got valve cores in them and you air the tires up. And it really hasn't changed in actually 40 years. Yeah. So, it's really something that I don't know if it's our industry or if it's just the way things are, which is why I'm so excited about this powdered product in a water soluble bag is that we've taken the what do you call it, the market itself, kind of turned it on its end, and we've reduced weight by 94% just by going to a powdered form.
The thing is, I mean, I'd say you're the person to ask about this as director of sales. Is there a resistance to, like, are people it seems like if I was a purchasing manager, I think I'd be pretty open to the discussion, because obviously as soon as 94% weight comes in, if you're reducing it, you've got my attention. Are people pretty open to it? Is this a difficult product to get? Has it been a difficult product to get into the market, or has it been pretty well received?
Well, and that's one of the reasons we're on your show, is to talk about it like this, because, there's been a lot of travel in the last year and so. So, it's been tough. I think when people see it actually work, and hopefully you're going to share one of the videos and stuff too, of course. But when they see how easy it is, though, most people that we've shown it to, which was a while ago, they went, "Oh, that makes all the sense." But there again, our industry is slow and changing. And this product is probably less than 1% of somebody's tire budget. So it's not really on the top of the list, you might say. But it is again, very innovative. And so I'm hoping that with what happens today with the show, and also follow up travel and different things now that we can get out and do what we need to do, things will start picking up.
Do you get a lot of, I guess that would be the thing. Do you get a lot of questions about it, or do people, I mean, I took way too long to figure out what you were doing. Way too long. It's just sometimes your mind gets locked. Maybe that's the industry's problem. Your mind gets locked into something. And I was like, it's just like I did with on my Toyota. I even talked to Rory on the phone. He's like, well, it's kind of like that. I was like, yeah, no, it's good. I get it. And maybe that's part of the problem. Once you get in front of people and start having the conversation, is it, I mean, I think you have actually some videos of it being used on mine sites. Is it sort of that aha moment that they just get what you're talking about?
Yes. And in fact, one of our distributors coined a slogan a while ago that I've been using. It's stop shipping water. And it just makes too much sense, right? But when until they actually use it or they see how it's used, they just don't, I guess they just don't get it.
Yeah, I remember hearing, like those little pods that you put in the dishwasher now. I don't know if anybody actually uses the liquid stuff for dishwashers anymore. Maybe they do. But I remember I actually have heard discussions about which is better, the pod or the solution that you just dump in liquid. It's the same thing. It's just one's a powder with the water added to it. So I think, is that part of it? It's just that comfort level, especially if it's 1% of the budget, they just go, well, it's the same thing, but we'll just keep going with it.
Exactly. I remember when I first saw the first pod for detergent, I'm like, how is this going to work?
Right.
And, when I actually used it, I was like, oh, Well, that's obvious. And now I think most households use the darn stuff, right?
Yeah.
You don't spill it. It's easy to throw in. You don't put too much or too less in.
Yeah.
So, that kind of an application is the same thing for Rim Plus. And I think it makes, when you compare those two, people kind of shake their heads, go, oh, okay, I understand.
Yeah, it's nice because you actually sent the video, and it is very much like those pods, right, Maury? Like it comes in like a bag, so the installation is, again, another thing I was confused about. I was thinking it was, again, referring it back to mine. I thought you like put it into the stem or something, and which doesn't even make sense on mining tires. So the installation it's exactly the same as the other type of chemical. It's really that shipping and getting it there. But once you get it, what's the process? We'll bring the videos up, but just sort of walk us through it.
Sure. It's really no different than what we just talked about with the detergents and stuff. You grab a bag and you throw the whole bag into the tire, and either the tire has water in it before or after you throw the bags in. The number of bags determines the quantity of water you put in the tire, depending on the size of the tire, of course. And it starts immediately as soon as it hits the water, starts to dissolve. Actually, it's very quick, even in cold water.
Does the other thing that I kind of wanted to mention, I know this is a little bit of a pivot, but is, we've had people on the show that are coming, they're sort of, it's like a standalone product in for their this is what their company do, but this is not the case with Griffin Chemical. Griffin Chemical they're a chemical company, and this is one stream that they're offering to the mining industry. So I thought it was kind of important, Maury, before we get too deep into the interview, to sort of talk about who Griffin is. So could you kind of give that backstory of who's backing the product?
Sure. That's and I haven't been working there a long time, but I've learned a lot about the company. And it was actually founded in 1934 by a pharmacist.
Oh, wow.
And so it's been around over 85 years. We produce around 400 different chemicals for about 12 different industries, the tire industry being one, of course. But we're in janitorial and sanitation. We're in we've got truck washes. We've got asphalt release formulas.
Oh, wow.
We've got dust suppressants that go to Japan. I mean, so it's a company, that's, well, thank goodness, growing. And we've got roughly 25,000 square feet, and we're adding another 12,000 by the summer. We've changed some different things at the company. We should be ISO certified by September, which is pretty exciting. So it's the company over the 80 years has consistently entered new markets every few years. And so it's been it's fun to see the historical aspects of the company. And it's even more fun for me, especially being at my current level, being in the tire business so long, and where we're heading there. And that responsibility for me as director of sales. Not only do I get a call from a janitorial company wanting some EPA registered products, I get the call from the tire dealer that needs a tire dressing or a bead lubricant or something like that.
Oh, so you're doing all of that stuff in the tire sector as well, then?
Yes, yeah.
So
there's more than one product we have for the tire sector, and have for many years. We even make a soap to make sure that you get all the carbon black off your hands, which is something that happens when you're in retreading in the tire business and things like that. We actually designed a product to remove that particular substance off all these guys' hands that are working with the tires every day.
Yeah, we've done some episodes about exactly that, changing these tires, these giant tires. What is so what is your, if you don't mind me asking, what's the distribution model for Griffin Chemical? Is that, are you doing it through dealers? Are you doing it direct? Like even for the product that we're talking about, Rim Plus powder. I am stumbling today. I was doing so good the last few episodes.
It's
too much summer. The weather's getting too nice. That's what it is.
I think it happens a lot when you think you know what the word is, and then they go, "Oh, actually, that was wrong." So now you're self-conscious of that you're going to say it wrong. So you say it wrong.
You know me too well. That's exactly what happened. So rim plus powder. How are people? What is the distribution model on the mining side, but just also in general as a company?
Well, I would have to say most of the products are delivered through distributors.
Okay.
And even the tire products, I'm not going to go on the mine side and put it in myself. There's people out there that know a lot more about tires and different things than I do, even though I've been doing this for 40 years. There are experts on site that understand quantities that need to be in the tire better. They understand whether or not they've got heat issues. So they understand what their particular tire programs. And I have been all over many places in the world, and everywhere I've gone, the tire programs are just, a little bit different, and some of them are a lot different. So, but mostly through distributors, I would say.
What is I wouldn't mind more, again, if you don't mind to, is to kind of go back through that, and because you're in an industry, you've got a newer product on the market backed by a company that's been around for years. I think you said 1934.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy. So what sort of, can you give us a snapshot of your experience coming into the industry, and then sort of how that ties in to trying to get a new product to the market, sort of what you're bringing to the table when you're trying to have these conversations and trying to get this product in the door?
You mean essentially my background to today?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fairly simple. It won't take too long, I promise. But
we got time.
I actually started out 40 years ago with a duck-billed sledgehammer, breaking down 1020 bias ply tires.
Okay.
And for an independent tire dealer here in Oregon, and went from there to, sales and management in the company, and then went to work in the tire additive industry for many years, and learned so many things that it helped me understand everything from calcium chloride that I used to put in when I worked for the tire dealer, to beet juice for ballast. Many puncture sealants that are now out there, which is a thick liquid product to help the tires. If they get a hole in it or nail in it, would seal that temporarily, seal that hole. So the experience for that, and all the travel that I've done and the different places I've seen, gets me even at this late stage in the game, very excited even more about the dry product or the powdered product, because it's so much better for the environment, so much better for the customer. It's so much cheaper, believe it or not. I wish I was back 25 years ago and could do this. It's so disrupting and so exciting. I've been that type of person, even when I was selling tires and retreading tires and things. I always wanted to take care of my customers. The customer was the focus. And with this product, again, the customer is the focus. I'm helping the end user reduce their space that they need storage. I'm helping the customer not take, the handling is much easier. There's a lot of other attributes to the dry product. So as you can see, I'm very passionate about this, because it makes so much sense.
Do you, it's funny. Like, I remember doing the first episodes of this show, and it was almost like just pure adrenaline. You just come in and you're just trying so hard to do a good job. It's like you don't even feel the show happen. You're just so focused in, and I've worked in sales as well, so that's sort of that feeling like when you first make your first few sales. It's like it's just sort of almost like a blur.
Yeah.
But I find then there was this stage where you sort of, this is for me, you get frustrated because then you don't feel like you're doing like I'm doing the interviews very well. But then you start to learn a few things, and then it starts to be like you're actually there. you're actually applying some skill, and you're still sort of interested in what the person is talking about. And so then it really becomes enjoyable. I found by about episode 50, I really started to find a lot of enjoyment in doing these shows, and it was relaxing and just being able to have a conversation. Do you find that experience, have you kind of went through that journey working in sales and customer service for as long as you have, that sort of that arc of, and still being able to be excited today walking in and talking about a new product?
Yes, without a doubt. I especially when you've got a new product. I mean, there again, I hate to come back to the boring part of the tire industry, is that they're black and round, they go on wheels, and you put air in them. I mean, that can be very boring.
Of dollars.
But in mining and construction, there's many more things to look at, and having that advantage of seeing many different operations. Where there's one site I went to, they had a bead of on the wheel itself. They had a bead about this wide all the way around the wheel that was rusty, and the rest of the wheel looked okay, but it was just this piece of rust all the way around the wheel, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong. And so they asked me for some help, and I was happy to do that. And what we found out was that the bead lubricant that was being used was being left in the sunshine and was separating, and the rust inhibitors were essentially evaporating out of the bead lube, and they didn't know. And so once I told them that they had to keep it mixed and keep it in an area that wasn't in the middle of the sunshine, though that some of that rust went away, and so it was very helpful for them. So I still get excited about every aspect of this business, and I always have. In fact, I think one gentleman, I think I was in Australia, and I got up on the desk, and he goes, "Hey, relax, sit back down. It's we can talk about it." But I get too excited sometimes.
Well, I got to figure out how to get you to that point on the show, and we'll get some viral video stuff happening. We'll make sure to put your logo in the corner and then have you really getting amped up. So I just wanted to quickly, I don't want to get into too technical, Maury, but it's sort of, I can't imagine that 20 years from now, these giant totes will be getting shipped all over the world with, again, shipping water. It's ridiculous. Once you've entered the market, become strong in the market, the company that's behind you, all these things that you have in place, it is going to change the way that this type of product is distributed.
Right.
I wanted to talk a little bit about, is it the same as the old product, but with an additive that turns it into that powder form, or are you able to talk a little bit about that? Obviously, I mean, I don't know about trade secrets and all that. I'm just asking the question. Are you able to sort of unpack that a little bit for us?
Well, the Griffin Chemical has been making powders for years in all different industries. And so there's a way to do it. You can't just throw all the constituents that all the different additive manufacturers make and put it in a bag. There's more to it than that. Like you said, I'm not going to get into the chemistry of it, but there is a way to do it. And with the water soluble bag, made it patentable. According so far, we haven't, like I said, haven't received the patent, still patent pending, but it made it so that it's actually a ready to use product. Where if you just have the powder, that it doesn't work that way. You need to put it in that bag, make it easy for the customer, because if we make it harder for them, they're not going to use it.
Right.
You got to make it easier.
Yeah. So, Maury, we talked a little bit about obviously the shipping element, shipping water, that sort of thing. But because I'm not buying it, I'm probably not thinking of some of the questions, the sort of the roadblocks that you run into, or the main selling points and things like that. Could you just kind of walk through? I mean, I know it, I think you mentioned it earlier in the interview, sort of that environmental aspect is also there, which I'm sure the minds perk right up as soon as you say that. So can you just sort of walk through some of the selling points that you go through when you're talking to a potential new customer?
Sure. Well, and we talk, and I apologize if I'm repeating myself, but it's easier to go through the different things one by one. But obviously, if you've got less weight that you're having to deal with, which coincides with a less cost for shipping. You've also got less volume. You reduce the need for storage. I mean, if you can picture your 20 or 30 or 40 275-gallon totes in your yard versus a pallet and a half of cases of the water-soluble bags, that's a big difference just in space, especially if you're in a place that has to warehouse them inside or keep them from freezing or whatever. You're not having to deal with that with a powder.
Yeah.
So, and also the reduction in handling. Now you've instead of handling 20 or 40 totes that you need a forklift to move around, you've got a case that you can pick up that only weighs 36 pounds. So it's really a big deal.
Yeah. It almost feels it's like, as you're talking about it, it's almost like a hard thing to it's almost hard to take seriously that this isn't just the standard.
I know.
As you walk through it, I'm like, I don't really, it's almost like I don't know what to ask you. I'm like, oh, there you go.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds obvious, Jared, but it hasn't been. And which is another reason why we're reaching out to you guys again, because it's really important that we get some other people thinking about it and maybe asking some questions. And then me getting back on the road and showing some people what's going on. When you can throw 2 or 3 bags in a tire and add some water and mount the tire, it's just it's to you and I and to everybody, it's really simple. And I thought I still think it, and you can tell by my attitude and passion that it is the way to go. After 40 years of experience doing this, seeing things, everything from South Africa to Australia to throughout North America and Mexico, and it just makes too much sense.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I'm thinking of it too. I mean, you some of these sites, with these giant storage facilities and that, but that's not the case for a lot of mining operations. They are limited in space. The roads, they don't want to have a bunch of liquids pounding up and down some of these roads. I mean, there's a lot of situations globally where this would just, it would just eliminate an annoyance.
Oh yeah. Well, think about spillage. I mean, I don't know how many times these liquid totes leak, and on the ground. You're not going to get that you're not going to get that with a bag unless you break a bag open, which it's pretty tough.
Yeah.
If you spill some water, who cares?
Yeah, right. It's, I want to go, and I have to say, I think, as I've got to know you, and when we started this, I didn't realize that was the setup, but your son actually bought Griffin Chemical, right?
Yes, he actually did. Yeah. Last December, he and Ryan, the previous owner, came to an agreement, and actually Matt's had 15 years in the industry also, in the tire industry also. And he took this company on, and it's for a father, it's been really exciting to watch.
No kidding, yeah.
Your son do something like this. It's also very scary too. I mean, you've got to, all of a sudden overnight, you have employees to take care of. You've got to figure out how to help them make their jobs easier. There's a lot of regulations when you have a chemical company. So
right.
There's a lot of things to learn. I mean, we even make some products that have to be kosher. So he's learning all sorts of different things about running a company that's more than 85 years old.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you hear, I mean, people buy companies, oh, they've been around 20 years. But when you get into that sort of legacy, I mean, it's kind of something special, and it must be something special for you as well to be able to, I mean, be part of taking his products to market. I mean, that's something rare. That doesn't happen in everybody's life where you get to provide that sort of hands-on support, to a son that's taken on that type of responsibility.
I'm very proud of him. I think he's going to be great. It's just there's really no end in sight. There's so many industries that we have access to now that we can promote some products to. The cement industry, the asphalt industry, the janitorial and sanitation. It's almost too much.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah. No, I mean, we've had chemical companies on before. I mean, it's the industry it's overwhelming. Like it's one of these industries that it's everywhere. Like it's stuff you don't even think of as, I mean, chemicals are literally woven into our world right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, when you came on, I mean, what's day one like? We've talked about Rim Plus powder, and we've talked a little bit about the company. So I'm going to get a little bit personal now. What's day one like? Your son just bought a company, and not just any company. It's a company that's been around for 85 plus years, and you're both bringing in experience. You're obviously bringing in the 30 plus years of it.
Right.
I mean, what is day one like? That conversation where you're standing in his new office.
Yeah.
Go.
Well, day one is like for actually both of us was even a bit before that, because he had actually worked there a bit before actually buying the company.
Right.
But he and I both worked out in the warehouse. We went out there and we packaged, and we saw how it was done. We did it ourselves. We lifted up the boxes and put them on pallets. We filled up gallon jugs. We filled up detergent in the plastic bags. We did Rim Plus, of course. We did all those physical things, and we still do to some extent. But it was imperative that we go out there and see how the products are put together and learn more about all the raw materials. It's amazing. You come in one door, you mix it, and it goes out the other. And it's different from what I did in the past, from the changing tires to selling one product, tire additive, now to, as I mentioned, 400. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't dilute our efforts for sales, because my experience will go toward the tire side of it.
Right.
Where Matt's learning many different things. And as we expand, we'll add salespeople to different industries, and that will all move forward, I think, just naturally. But it is exciting for a father to watch his son do this.
Yeah. Is he from a strategic side, when the company was when he took the company over, was Rim Plus, was that a priority product at the time? Was it already developed and ready to go, or where was that at when he bought it?
It was already developed and ready to go for sure. Yeah. And it was interesting because Matt and Ryan, they came up with it, and it was kind of Matt's idea. He asked Ryan if this could work, and they put their heads together and they figured it out. And it didn't happen like overnight. You can't take a powder, whether it's a dish detergent or Rim Plus, and just go, just put these together, it'll work fine.
Right.
There's a lot of trial and a lot of error, just to mix constituents or different raw materials together in a granular form. Things have to flow properly so that the mix is right. So it's not rocket science, but it's not easy either.
Right. Yeah, it's quite interesting. I think by nature I'm a fairly curious person. I would love to be a fly on the wall those first couple months that your son's taking on a new company. I mean, I've seen I've worked for my father's company, and I've had him listen to me talk about something I'm about to get started. Sometimes slightly skeptic. Other times I've seen him and I'm talking, and I can tell he is trying to be supportive, which is actually to me quite touching. And I can tell he thinks what I'm saying is completely wrong.
Well, Matt and I do get into it once in a while, and it's quite fun. And Ryan, the previous owner, and currently he's also the CEO, and still he's a formulating chemist, which really helps answer a lot of questions for Matt and I. But when the three of us get together, it's it's crazy. It's not a party, but it's damn close.
Right. Is it, I mean, it must take it to another level though, when you're working in that sort of, when the stakes are that high for him, and obviously everything in you wants him to succeed. Right. It must just give that extra motivation when you're out talking to a customer and all that sort of stuff. Is it almost like a new shot in the arm, from having all this experience, but now having this sort of new level of passion essentially to bring?
I think it helps, but the real thing for me, and I keep coming back to this, but the real thing for me is that we've got this new product that you're not shipping water all over the world again. And I get excited about that.
Right.
Having it be my son's company is great. And I love it, but really I come back to my roots, and it's like, why didn't this come up 20 years ago? And I've been asked that question many times. And I can't answer it.
It's a question I have too. I don't quite, but I guess the same with pods. I mean, really, pods have only been around. And I always say the mining industry, not obviously in what they specialize in, but I'm talking about like communication strategies, the way they leverage off new technology and even social media and things like that. They're always about 10 years behind. And I've been in the industry long enough to know it's pretty accurate. And I think that's probably what it is, because it's probably only been about, maybe has it been 20 years since the little pods you put in the dishwasher? I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but I honestly can't tell you, Jared.
It seems to me about 10 years ago, you started to see a lot of it. I'm sure they were around, and they'd be mixed in with sort of the thing. They'd have little samples hanging off the side. They were trying to kind of convince people to do it and all that sort of stuff. But in your case, you don't sell the liquid, right? That's something we should clarify. You don't sell the liquid. You don't sell your own competition, do you?
Well, I don't want to, because I don't think it's the right thing to do. But of course, we do. We do sell the liquid. Not very much.
Hanging those little samples on the side.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Here's you can use this, but this is what you should be using.
Yeah, exactly. Maury, thanks for coming on the show. And like you said, you keep coming back to about you're not shipping water and all that. It is exciting to see. We have a lot of technology stuff on the show. It's a lot of computer based and sensor based, and I love that technology. But there is also this huge place for just practical ways to save.
Exactly.
It's just something that should be done. It doesn't take any new technology within the company. You just need to have. You don't even need to have more storage space. You need to have less storage space.
Right.
And so it's nice to have a company on like yourself, when really the last few episodes really have focused so much on sort of this technological approach to efficiency rather than this practical one. So thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate it. And it's exciting to see this type of innovation in the mining industry.
Thanks so much, Jared.
Okay. That is the episode of Mining Now. I feel like maybe if they do that, a little package thing on the side, maybe I'll get a little commission or something. Never.
That was your whole goal.
That's all I've been
That's
working
what you
toward.
were like. You know what? I'm going to say this so
say
that
that.
I can get.
It won't work. what I like about that is it's a product that's sort of new to the market at this point,
Yeah.
but it's backed by a company with 85 plus years.
Yeah.
So that's a little extra excitement, I think, for me, and I'm sure for the people that are watching that are potential customers. Gowdy, where can everybody follow, suggest guests, make fun of me stumbling all over the place today, that sort of thing? I couldn't even say that right.
Okay. Well, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single episode of Mining Now, Crownsman Energy, or The Crownsman Show. If you want to be part of one of the shows, you can also contact us, info@crownsman.com. And yeah, I'll have little bloopers of Garrett of all the episodes. Actually, you know what? That's what we should do for year end. All the put a blooper clip of all our stumbles and retakes.
The self-conscious side of me goes no, but the other side of me that knows people will enjoy it says yes. Okay. Thank you, Gowdy. Thank you, Maury. We're going to have their websites, Griffin Chemical, Rim Plus Powder. We're going to have all the links. You can go check it out. Please do that. It's a great product. And we will see you on the next episode of Mining Now.